Hi friends, welcome back. It is January 6th and I want to show you how the garden looks after that winter freeze we had. If you live in the Northeast, you probably noticed the cold weather we had. We went down to 7 degrees here in Northern Virginia. The next day we were down to about 13 degrees and the following day we were up to 23 degrees. So we had 3 days where we did not get above freezing. So I was very concerned about my trees and my plants that I was growing. I lost a few of the plants that I was growing, but I want to show you today some of the ones that are still growing and some of the ones that died, so that you can concentrate on growing those that survived and that you can have a successful winter garden in your house. You can remember this are my raised beds that I'm growing vegetables in, and I planted a lot of stuff in here that was supposed to survive the winter, but we didn't get so lucky. But the one thing that survived 7 degrees and is still green and growing is this Bloomsdale spinach. Check out how beautiful this spinach is looking. Maybe not that one, not so much, but look at this one. This one is nice and green. The spinach was the only thing that survived that winter kill. The tatsoi that usually will go through the entire winter for me died. So next year I want to plant more spinach than anything else, because this one did not get any damage from the winter kill. This was a surprise. The broccoli I had growing actually died, and you can see it here, but the collard greens are still alive. So check out this collard greens. They are still alive and still growing. So if you want to grow greens during the winter time, concentrate on collard greens. I have some more collard greens here, and you can see that those survived no problem. My container garden is doing great. Some of the garlic did get a little bit of damage, but I think the centerpiece is still alive, so we'll be able to still collect some of this garlic in the springtime. The carrots, the tops died, but I think the carrots themselves are okay, and I should be able to harvest these carrots in very early spring. I also have my baby green onions here. These are evergreen onions that I saved seeds for, and check out these guys. They did not die and they are still green, and that is 7-degree weather that they still survived. My beets over there did not make it, and this mint is looking a little sad, but I know the mint is pretty winter hardy, so it will come back from the roots in the spring. So I am pretty happy with this results of these container garden here. I think next year I'll focus more on the spinach, because that seems to be more cold tolerant than anything else. This right here is a yuzu lemon seedling that I started from seeds in the spring, and I put it into the ground here to see if it will survive. It is supposed to be hardy to about 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and it survived the 7 degrees. I did cover it with this white bucket, and it is surviving right now. So if it survives this winter, I know that it will survive most winters here in Zone 7A. I am also growing a lot of trees here. I have persimmon trees, cherry trees, elderberries, blackberries, and a bunch of other things right here. I am propagating a lot of trees. I do sell these online, but I actually don't do any shipping. So if you're interested in buying some, and if you live in Northern Virginia, send me a message and we can get together and I can sell you some of those trees. And I have a lot of pawpaw seedlings right here. I'll be selling these pawpaw seedlings in the springtime and the summertime, and I'll sell them in individual pots. So make sure you follow me on Facebook and on Instagram at Garden Forage, and you can see when I post things for sales. The cilantro was not affected at all by the 7-degree weather, and look at this. This is growing and it's happy right now. The lettuce, the outer leaves died, but the center is still alive. So I need to come back in here and just clean up these lettuces, and hopefully it will continue to grow if the weather permits. This guy right here is a trifoliate orange, or flying dragon. This is a wild citrus that is native to China or Japan, and it is supposed to survive here, and I'm pretty sure it will survive, and in maybe 4 or 5 years it will produce some. And in 4 or 5 years it will produce a fruit that is about this size, and it is pretty tart and a little bitter, but you can use it to cook with, and it's supposed to be edible. Some people say it's not very tasty, but I am willing to give it a whirl and try it out. Check out this beautiful patch of cilantro that I have growing right here, and it is growing without any protection. I did not protect this cilantro, and it is growing without a hitch. Look at this beautiful, look at this beautiful cilantro. And my neighbor loves cilantro too, so she's been harvesting some of this cilantro as well. So we are doing quite well. We are doing quite well with our cilantro crop of this year. Surprisingly enough, this lettuce right here is still alive, and it's all the baby seedlings here. I planted this very late into the season, and it is growing right now. So this is going to be very interesting. I'm going to be taking all these seedlings and probably putting them into my greenhouse and growing them out in there. These back here are leeks, and they are doing quite well. I am surprised that they are growing so well over here, and I'm probably going to be eating some of those in the springtime. We did have some losses in the arugula patch right here. The arugula, the outer leaves, the ones that were way out here, they died, but you can see that the center is still green. So I am hopeful that this arugula will come back, and you can see this one right here, a much better example. The center is still green, but the outer leaves died, so this will definitely come back. These right here are perennial purple colors, and I got the seeds from a subscriber. We did lose the outer leaves, but the center is still alive, and this is supposed to be perennial to zone 7, but it got so cold for the 3 days, so I was afraid that we were going to lose it, but it seems to be doing okay. I just hope that it produces flowers and then seeds so that I can save it in the springtime, because I like to keep this collard greens going perennial as a perennial crop here in my area. The weather has been crazy enough that the daffodils are already popping out, and it is January. This is the earliest I have ever seen them come up, and I'm hopeful that they don't come up too soon and die in the winter, because I love the daffodils in the spring. At the very front we have my beautiful rosemary. That one's going strong, no issues here. We did lose a lot of the collard greens, and we did lose a bit of the bok choy that I had right here, but these turnips are still growing, so that is a good crop to grow around here, because this is a turnip, and they are doing quite well and happy right now. So I'm gonna be eating a few of those greens. I need to clean up all of this and then let the new growth come in, and I can start eating salads again. No surprises here. This is thyme, and this one survives no problem. And I also have some evergreen onions, which are the parents of the ones I showed you in the pot. I save seeds from these every year, and I have been growing these for about 10 years now, from the same packet of seeds I bought 10 years ago. So these are evergreen onions. You can buy them from Southern Exposure Seed Exchange, and they are nice perennial onions for our zone. This right here is lavender that I started from seed 2 years ago when we bought this house, and it is looking great. Obviously it is not as pretty as it is in the summer months, but it is surviving, and I'm planning to make cuttings of this and sell it as well as part of my crops that I sell in the summer and springtime. In this bed here I have more thyme. I also have this elephant garlic here, and this one is doing quite well, and I am surprised because this elephant garlic did not get that much frost damage, but my regular garlic got beat up quite a bit. My regular garlic got beat up a lot, but you can see the center is still green, and I think it'll be fine. So I'm hopeful that I still get a crop of garlic this year. We've never had a freeze this early in the season, so I was a little concerned about that, but I think we'll be all right, and we'll be able to harvest some garlic from here. I do have some baby carrots growing here, and this one is doing quite all right, and hopefully I'll be able to harvest these in the springtime. I have some garlic here that was a little bit smaller than the one back there that I just showed you, and this one did not see any frost damage. Check that out. And it's also a different type, so that might have something to do with it too. And check out this beds right here. The collard greens are still alive and going, so collard greens are a winner for a winter garden. I have a sage here, and that one's doing okay. Looking a little sad, but I think it'll survive. And this cabbage here, I think this one definitely died. The center is dead, so I think I'm gonna have to rip these out, but I'll just leave them here for a little longer. And then in about 2 months, I'll be planting my spring crops. This is my beautiful artichoke, and it has died. I am hopeful that in the springtime it will come back from the roots, but so right now it looks pretty dead, and I am a bit sad about it. So we'll see what happens, and we'll keep praying for this one so that it comes back. Along the fence here we have our trellises and our vining plants, and these are doing okay. I think they'll be totally fine. One thing I was very surprised about is this blackberry. This blackberry has not lost its leaves even through that crazy freeze that we've had. This is a Black Beauty thornless blackberry, and I'm propagating this one, and I'm gonna be putting this everywhere in my yard because it produces very delicious blackberries. So I'm very happy with this, and check out how beautiful it is. Still holding on to its leaves in January. This right here is one of the biggest projects I've taken on this whole winter, and this is my compost pile. My compost pile is about 8 foot wide and about 4 foot tall, and I have been putting all the leaves from the neighborhood into this. I think I've put over 100 bags of leaves in here, and I did that last year, and I got the most beautiful compost. So I am definitely doing that again so I decided to replicate the experiment again this year and collect all of my neighbors' leaves, and they're very kind enough to put them in bags and bring them to my front yard, and I take them from there and I put them into my compost pile. And in the summertime they get nice and delicious tomatoes. Right over here I have a second pile of leaves, and since it did so well last year, I decided to go twice as big this year. Check out those 2 beautiful piles of leaves. I actually started with the small one, but then I got more leaves from a neighbor, so I decided to make a really big one. So here we go. This is going to be my compost for next year, and if it's not fully composted, I'll just use it as mulch on top of my leaves. I'll just use it as mulch on top of my plants, and that should be totally good. Here is the back orchard. I am taking out that stump over there little by little, so that's a little bit of the stump I am grinding out right now. And check out my compost piles. I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Compost drives my garden, and it is all the fertilizer that I use for my gardens. So as you see, it's very important to me to create a lot of compost piles, so I have a lot of compost to feed my plants during the springtime. Back here I have some leaves that are protecting my hardy banana plants, and I'm hoping that the trunks get saved a little bit better than they did last year so that the plants get bigger in the springtime. This is a hardy Chicago fig here, and it is doing okay. It seems like it survived the winter freeze, so we are okay for now. This right here, you might not see it very well in the picture, but this is a peach tree that I started from seed in the springtime, and check out how big it is now. It is about 5 foot tall, I would say. Yeah, about 5 foot tall, and that is grown from a seed in the springtime. So people say that you can't plant trees from seed. Well, let me show you. This is a growth that I've received here in about, you know, eight months of growing season. So you can definitely grow peaches from seed, and I'm hopeful that this will produce peaches in about 2 years. Here's the stump that I am taking out with that axe, and I have taken out a stump before with an axe, so I know it's possible, and it's going to be a lot of work, but I want this area here for more planting. Let's take a look at the greenhouse. There's not much growing in here this year because I started everything too late. Welcome to the greenhouse. It's actually nice and warm in here. I think what makes the greenhouse nice and toasty is that the wind is not hitting you quite hard. So just that protection from the wind really helps the plants in here. So in here I have a hardy guava tree. This is a pineapple guava, and it is growing, and I recently bought a bigger one. So I want to plant it inside my greenhouse in the springtime, so that way I can grow 2 of them because they need each other to cross-pollinate. Check out this beautiful green onions I have here. Same ones as before, evergreen onions. They are doing quite well. And I am seeing quite a bit of damage from slugs. I came in here the other day and I noticed this little chewing. And that is from slugs. So I need to apply a little bit of the Sluggo in here so that we can stop those slugs from eating all of my seedlings. Because in this bed I planted a bunch of seedlings and they came up, but the slugs have been eating all of my seedlings in here. And I definitely need to put some little Sluggo in here. So at this point, I don't care so much about the seedlings anymore. I think it's too late in the season. They're not going to grow very much. So I'll let the slugs have a go at this plants now, eat all of it. And then I'll put the Sluggo in around the middle of February. I'll start planting out this greenhouse. And then I'll start getting serious about growing stuff in here. In here I also have some water buckets to try to keep the temperature a bit more regulated. At least that's what I've heard. So I've had a couple water buckets in here to absorb the heat during the daytime and then release it at nighttime. But when it got down to 7 degrees, these buckets right here were frozen solid. So I don't know how much that is true. Then we have here some dill, and at this end here we have the carrots. And I see the baby slug here eating away at my plants. Here's the guy that's been eating all of my plants right here. This little slug just eating away at my plants. I wish I had some ducks so I could feed it to the ducks. Today is actually very cloudy and there is not a lot of sun, but it is still very warm inside the greenhouse, so that's kind of nice, just to sit in here away from the wind and enjoy the greenery, very little greenery that we have in the greenhouse. Definitely messed up by planting too late this season, but I was busy doing other things, so that's okay. You live and you learn, and next year I'll definitely plant out the greenhouse in September so that it's growing fully by the time that winter hits. And that is the winter tour of my garden here in very early January 2023. I am looking forward to the 23 growing season, and I hope that you guys are getting prepared right now. I need to do an inventory of all the seeds I have. I definitely want to spend less money this year on growing food. That is my ultimate goal every year, is to spend less money but grow more food. And you do that by growing from seeds rather than buying starts. So I'll be doing a series on starting your own seeds. I'll start my seeds in about 6 weeks now, and that should be good enough to get started in the early spring. And you can start eating from your garden in March. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. I'll see you on the next one.